My friends, welcome to part 11 of the Chris Chan and Alec Benson Leary phone call series, and it's only getting more heated from here, folks. In this part of the call, Alec has absolutely had enough of Chris's nonsense, and he's going to lay the foot down. Now, the thing is, if I seem a little more quiet, a little more less energetic, it's because, we got the virus again. This is 2 times in 1 year. Absolutely terrible, terrible ratio here, but, these things happen, but we're still going to keep on chugging. We're going to get these videos out for y'all, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So as I say at the beginning of all these videos, the full call here without my commentary will be in the link in the description. The Discord's down there, my Twitch channel's down there, and every previous part before this one is down there as well. So where we left off, Chris was explaining to Alec how weak Alec was for taking Chris's fans from him, and we're going to see how Alec responds to that, because Chris's argument is pretty nonsensical. It's just something that he feels that he has to say to try to make himself look good. So we're going to jump right back into it and just hear Alec continue to grill Chris on these topics that really aren't that big of a deal, but in Chris's little troll world, these are huge, like, earth-shattering topics that we need to cover. So we're going to get right back into it.
People are not, like living in a vacuum. Most of my fans have been fans of other things before they became fans of my work. That's how competition works. I mean, the better man wins. I'm productive, and I am consistent.
Yeah, I mean, still, the method you use for putting your ads on my website, that was like stealing from me. Even though you paid to put the ads there, you did not pay my sys-op directly. You paid Jack Thaddeus.
Yeah, I rent the ad space from Jack. That's how it works.
So already Chris is back to trying to find any excuse as to why Alec is in the wrong here and not himself. He's saying that you're basically stealing from me. You're stealing my friends, my fans from me, because you're putting your ads on my Wikipedia, It's like the Coca-Cola company saying these Pepsi billboards are stealing from us because they're taking all of our original drinkers, It's just an asinine thing to say. But then Chris goes on to say it's really because, he's not paying the sysop directly. He's paying Jack Thaddeus, another troll of Chris's, who just happens to run this website, or at least they own part of it. I'm not exactly sure what roles Jack Thaddeus plays, but Chris has to answer this guy. So the thing is, I think Chris is just mad that he's not the one getting the money. That's at least how I read into it. When I hear Chris say that, I feel like he's just saying, he's using the sysop as an excuse because he's really mad that, you're paying someone who's not me for my website. Chris has a lot of deep-rooted feelings about this that he can't outright say because he knows he'll get called out on it, and he just doesn't want to get into that issue.
And it turns out people like Asperchew, so... I mean, how do you think... You watch a lot of TV, right? I mean, you see a lot of commercials. Do you think all those... the people that make those commercials for, Coke and McDonald's and all that, do you think they are bad people because they use ads? Is that what you're saying to me, that I am bad just because I use ads? Good franchises advertise their products.
I'm not saying that, but if you consider me competition, then it's just terribly wrong for you to try to encourage my fans to go to you by putting your ads on your own competition space. Yeah, what if I had I had actually successfully bought ad space on your website, and put my ads on your website? How would you feel about that?
Honestly, I don't think I'd be worried because you don't respect your fans and you don't update for weeks at a time. I think my consistency and my stick-to-itiveness and my work ethic, is what makes my product superior. My fans would stay with me. I mean, they might go look at your website, your quickie, if you put ads on mine, but they probably wouldn't see much there worth keeping them around. There's a link to Sonichu on the Asperpedia front page, too, if you hadn't noticed. I mean, I'm not...
Anyway, yeah. Okay, well, yeah. All right. Anyway, is there...
And see, right there is the perfect example of the mindset that Chris shows going into this. He brings up to Alec. He's trying to make Alec feel bad. I think I've said it before in other parts, but, you know, Chris, the way he tries to talk to people is the same way his parents talk to him, you know? He tries to guilt trip Alec by being like, you know, it was just terribly wrong for you to do this. You know, how would you feel if I went on your page and I did this to you? Just like I said, he sounds like he's talking to a fucking child. But the thing is, Alec brings up to him, he's like, well, Chris, you know, there's a link to your website on the front page of my website. And instead of being like, oh, okay, you know, Chris just immediately jumps to, all right, well, anyways, and you know where he's about to go with this. I mean, Alec is about to cut him off. I know where this is going, but Chris just wanted to be like, all right, anyway, cool. Now, since you completely put me in my place with that one, I was complaining about that, and you literally have an ad for my, basically an ad for my own website on your website for free. Now Chris just wants to move on because he realizes he's been told off yet again. And you see, even though Alec is a troll and he's recording this call just to get laughs and just to mess with Chris, when he talks about how people are sticking with him because of his stick-to-itiveness and like how he's dedicated to his comic, what he's really trying to get Chris to realize is, man, you know, look how fast this guy, even though he's a troll, rose to prominence, you know? All these people love his artwork. Chris, maybe if you acted this way, people would love your stuff. And Chris just doesn't want to hear it. He wants to do what he wants to do, and he doesn't want to, like, he doesn't care if his fans or the fans he thinks he has are happy. All he cares about is that he's happy and that people just kiss his ass all day, because that at the end of the day is all Chris cares about.
Yeah, okay.
There is another. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, you go ahead. You said there's another thing?
There's another item for your list. I want you to apologize to your fans for disrespecting them. You disrespect them in general, I mean, you know, all the time, but with your mailbags, because you don't offer thought-out responses and you delete most of the mail that comes to you these days.
See, that's one of the more infuriating things about Chris, was his mailbag back in the day. You know, he'd sit there and he'd ignore any question with even the slightest bit of criticism towards him, you know. If you asked him about, like, you know, why aren't you drawing Sonichu a lot? You know, you claimed that this is like your life, you know, you barely draw it anymore. It didn't really matter what the criticism was. If there was any criticism whatsoever, Chris would just kind of, like, you know, brush that letter to the side. Don't even acknowledge what these people have to say, because even though some of them, and when I say some of them, it's a very few amount of them, were giving constructive criticism, there was a much higher majority of people who were probably just clowning on Chris. Now, most of this clowning probably just went over his head and he looked at it as criticism, but that was enough for him to just, like I said, shoo that letter aside. Don't want to answer that, because it's not fun. It's not telling me that my art is awesome. It's not telling me that I should keep doing what I'm doing and ignore the haters and all that. All that matters is, you know, these letters with criticism and all, we got to get them out of here, because Chris doesn't know how to answer that, as he says from his own words. But when he says he doesn't know how to answer these questions, he just means he doesn't want to, because he knows how to answer anything like a normal person. He just uses it as an excuse to not, like, have to, you know, not deal with things he doesn't want to do. If you bring up a topic he wants to talk about, he can talk about it for hours on end with you. But you bring up something serious, he just kind of sits there, stress-sized, and might even shit his pants.
And there was a bit of a backlash with, I think, Mailbag 50 or 51, whichever one that you fabricated, you know, positive mails for, instead of, you know, taking mails from the supply of existing mail. The one that you said, you know, the one where you basically wanted all your writers to trash me. Which is another thing I would add to the list, but I think I already covered, you know, wanting you to apologize for devoting all your time to trolling me lately.
Yeah.
What Alec is bringing up here is that around the time of this phone call, Chris had done a mailbag where he got an oddly specific amount of, like, this letters trashing Alec, talking about how Chris's art is so much better and how Alec's art is crappy, you know, kind of the same type of things Chris said earlier in these calls about how Chris's mom thought it was so much better than, Chris's mom thought Chris's art was so much better than Alec's art. So clearly, with Barb's stamp of approval, Chris is the big winner here. But as Alec brings up, you know, there's so many letters Chris never responds to because it has criticisms in them, but he'll gladly sit there and smile and, like, you know, just be so happy happy that all these people are trashing Alec and all this, and these are clearly fake letters either sent in by other trolls trying to make Chris look stupid, or letters Chris brought up on his own, or kind of wrote them himself, which I assume is what happened there. It would be a very Chris move to do that, but when Alec says that, you know, Chris, you're being a troll here, I don't even think at this point he's joking around. If Chris really is making fake letters to try to smear this guy, if Chris is trying to make himself sound better by ignoring all the real talk and making his own, making his own conversations for people to hear to try to convince him that Alec's art is crappier, then, you know, Chris is technically trolling Alec at the end of the day, but Chris doesn't want to hear that. He just wants to respond with another one of his little, you know, yes, you know, he doesn't want to acknowledge this fully, but at the end of the day, he really is trolling Alec if you do look at it.
I mean, every video that you've made, like, you know, your videos might be 2 or 5 or 10 minutes long, and then it probably takes quite a bit of time to upload the videos. You know, that's all time you could have spent making your comic, which would have kept fans around. But instead, the average fan sees 2 artists. They see me, who makes a good comic, and they see you, who attempts to terrorize other artists.
Let's see. Okay.
Did I?
Well,
Oh, go ahead. What do you think about that?
go ahead.
No. Let's. I had another subject to bring up, but I'd like to have your response to this first.
No, that's all right. You said you got another topic? Got another thing for my list?
No, I'd like to have your response to that first. What do you really think it was a good idea for you to devote what little energy you did put into this whole comic thing in the first place to attacking me? I mean, why would you think that was a good idea?
Well, because you attacked me first by putting your ads on my website.
That wasn't an attack. That was just a good business move.
Well, to me, it was an attack.
Well, it seems like to you everything is an attack. It seems like to you everything is theft, when it's not.
See, when Chris brings up that Alec attacked him first, you can kind of see Chris's point of view because, you know, he would have never even known who this guy was if he didn't put a bunch of ads up of things that Chris doesn't like at all. Every type of ad that Alec put up, you know, had to do with Asperchew, which Chris obviously hates because it has to do with Asperger's. And, you know, it's just, it's funny because, you know, you can see where Chris is coming from, but at the same time, it's like, dude, like, really, just ignore them if it's that bad, you know? I don't know. This is like the 19th time he's brought up how, like, the ads, you know, how it was an attack, or how earlier in the calls, he brought up how they were just so discombobulating to him. You know, Alec really had a good point where he says that, you know, all you have to do is put some ads on Chris's page, and it would just completely cease the production of his comic because it throws Chris through such a loop. And I did find it really funny how at the beginning there, you know, when Alec's asking Chris to just kind of, can you respond to what I brought up? Chris responds with, at one point, you know, no, I'm good. Let's just move on because, like I've been bringing up, not once in this whole call, unless pressed on it, does Chris offer an explanation for the things that he does. He just wants to say these things. He wants to sweep it under the rug and get the hell out of here. And it's always funny because you can tell he's squirming in his seat. He wants to zoom off to his bedroom and just play more video games or talk to his imaginary girlfriends. This is the least of his concerns right now because the second he hangs up this phone, he's going to forget about everything Alex said.
Chris, do you think it's okay for you to use Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog as, you know, characters in your story, and Transformers and Meg Griffin? I mean, wouldn't their original creators get mad that you're taking their characters?
Well, first off, I'm talking about my own Autobots, Decepticons with recoloring and different names. So Hasbro's not going to complain about that.
You know that Hasbro owns the names Autobot and Decepticon, right? Just using those names is already taking from them.
Well,
even if what's that?
I said nobody's complained to me yet.
Well, that's probably because you haven't made money on Sonichu yet. If you I promise you, if you made one dime on Sonichu, Hasbro and Sega and Nintendo will come down on your head because you just recolor their characters.
Well, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Or if it's like...
Chris, you can't afford to wait till you get to that bridge because you've spent 10 years devoting your life to this comic, which will unravel the instant you try to make money on it. Make one dime, lose $50,000 in lawsuits.
And right there, that's one of my favorite parts of the whole entire set of these calls, because it shows you like what little knowledge Chris really has when it comes to copyright, and what little thought he's put into the legalities and everything, and what goes into making money with Sonichu and all that. Because when Alec brings up, you can't even use do you hear them talk? Because he's saying things like, that would be like me saying, I'm gonna make a comic book and I'm gonna use the Smurfs. Like, I'm just gonna use the Smurfs as an example. We got Uncle Smurf over here. We got Jerry the Smurf. We got Tony the Smurf. And these are my Smurfs, not the ones from the TV show. So I can make my own thing with these guys. But and also that has to go back to Chris being mad about Alec using different versions of Sonichu and Asperchu, and how he says that all of them are his, because now Chris is using that excuse when it comes to the Decepticons and the Autobots and all that. But really, Alec brings up, all you're doing is recoloring these guys. And all his response is that, well, no one's complained to me. No one's complained to me yet. It's like, yeah, because this is a niche internet comic, but you genuinely think this is going to be a worldwide, franchise that you're going to make so much money off of. He's never thought about it more than 1 second. Now, I don't think that's anything out of the ordinary. I don't think anyone ever thought that Chris put a lot of thought into Sonichu. But hearing him talk about it here is just so eye-opening, because it just shows that he really, when he says, oh, well, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, that alone, that right there is basically him saying, all right, well, I'll think about it, like he's been doing this whole call. He doesn't really think about these things. He just does it because he thinks it's the right thing to do. And if Sega, Nintendo, any of these people did come down on Chris's head, if he tried making money off this, which, he has in recent years through Etsy and all that, making his Sonichu medallions and whatever, but if he around this time really started publishing Sonichu and somehow Sega and Nintendo did find out about it, Chris's only course of action would be to stomp his feet and make videos yelling at Miyamoto, saying, stop interfering with my money making. My family needs the money, and you guys are trolling me, and you guys aren't letting me do me. He would find them to be the villains in that scenario. But Alec is right when he brings it up that if Chris really did try to make this, if he was a sound-minded person who still had this crazy idea, there's no way he'd ever be able to make any money off this without getting sued out the ass. And it's just something that you got to think about, because Chris doesn't think like a normal person, and in this phone call you can see that, because he hasn't had a good explanation. He hasn't had a good reason to do anything in this entire phone call. He hasn't said one valid point. But it's always fun to talk about Sonichu and what Chris really thought Sonichu could have been, and what, to be fair, he probably still thinks Sonichu could have been, or can be, I'm sorry, because Sonichus now, he looks at them as his friends. These are the people that are the Sonichus are the people that are gonna go with Chris to a new dimension, and they're all gonna be gods together. I don't think at this point he's worried about publishing them and making money, although he could be, because at this point the Sonichus are so much more to him than just comic book characters. And you can even see that in this call with how he's so adamant on Simone not getting rid of her, and how he treats his characters, how he thinks Alec is crazy for not believing the characters are real and all that. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but the moral of the story is Sonichu is everything to Chris. At this point in time, he thought it could have been his real job going in life, but he never wanted to put effort into it. And it's one of those things where it's taken such a life of his own that now he thinks Sonichus are real. But, it's funny to see where we've come, because at one point people were going to joke about, if you try to publish it, you're going to lose $1 million. And at this point, it's oh my God, if you really think these Sonichus are living with you in real life and you're going to jump to another dimension with them, you're pretty crazy.
You need to do something about it now, before you waste any more time and effort on a franchise that is full of stolen material.
Yeah, well, I'll think about that further.
And I'm sorry to butt in again so frequently, but it's this little part here again. It just shows that, oh my God, Alec brings up don't waste any more time on this, and it's been like 15 years almost since this call. Like, the time has been wasted. And then at the end there, Chris, once again, you can see it just goes in one ear and one out, right out the other, because he's just like, yeah, he'll think about it. And as we can see, he did not think about this at all. And it's still a copyright disaster still to this day, and no matter what Sonichu becomes, it's always going to be just a big amalgamation, a big mess of all copyrighted characters that's never going to fly.
Chris, I'm trying to help you here. I mean, how many times tonight have you said, oh, I'll think about that. Anything else? I think you are trying to rush this phone call. Chris, you got to admit, I've got the patience of a saint to keep calling you and keep trying to be nice to you. And it seems like you have no concern for anything I say. I mean, keep in mind, I
am paying attention to everything you said.
But it seems like you don't want to take my advice.
Well, I am going to take your advice here. So let's
You mean you're going to restructure your comic completely and remove all elements of, that belong to other creators? Because that would pretty much take apart your entire comic. What are you going to do? What's your plan? What are you going to do to follow that advice?
The reboot will happen in book number 12.
When Alec asks Chris, he says, Chris, really explain this to me. Like, what is your plan here? You can tell Chris is starting to get a little more annoyed than he already is when he's like, the reboot will be done in book number 12, which it was not done. I think Chris's idea of a reboot, when people brought it up to him, because Alec wasn't the first person. Tons of people had brought up to Chris that, with Sonichu will not work, it will not fly. You should reboot it, draw your own original comic, nothing to do with anything copyrighted and all that. And the only thing Chris thought a reboot meant was, well, I'll kind of go back and change some things, but I'll take myself out of it because I'm in the comic too much. And even then, Chris could never do that, because still nowadays, Sonichu, if Chris ever draws anything Sonichu related, he's right there front and center in his Chris Chan Sonichu form, he can't help it. He has to be part of Sonichu through and through, so that reboot, or what he thought was a reboot, never even happened.
Well, you're still working on book 10, right? So you'll have that, and then all of book 11.
Yeah, well, book 11 will be like a clip show, which will unravel some of those plots and whatnot, and answer some questions. And then book 12 is like restarting with just Sancho and those two, and me not getting involved that much.
Yeah, see, right there. Like, he's not willing to get rid of Sonichu and Rosechu, even though they're, a copywritten mess. But, he still wants to reboot it, even though, it's, like I said, doesn't make much sense. And then at the very end, again, he says, he won't get involved, little pause, and then he goes, that much. Because in that exact moment, I think he realized, oh shit, if I say this and I do this, I can't draw myself in these scenarios and complain about my everyday life in my Sonichu comics. So that's why he's just making sure that Alec knows that, not too much, because Chris still needs to be able to jump in here and there to complain about the things he wants to complain about, to, make himself look cool, make himself look like the hero in his comics, which he always does. So yeah, Chris's whole reboot where he was going to get rid of himself never ended up happening, and that's the funny thing about it. The reboot that all these people talked about, Chris, you need to reboot it and get all these copywritten characters out of there. The one thing he tried to remove is something that he could have used all along, which was his own intellect, like his own likeness. So he tried to remove the one original thing from his comic.
Okay, well, is Sonichu still going to be a product of Pikachu and Sonic? Because that's a problem right there.
I do not have an answer to that question at the moment.
come on, see? Like, how does he's so unwilling to part with anything, and he's so unwilling to be truthful about anything. Alec asks him, it's the most simple question you could think of. In your reboot, will Sonichu still be a product of Sonic and Pikachu? And Chris very adamantly and very sassy goes, well, I don't have an answer for that at the moment. It's like, because you know damn well that was never gonna be the case, because Chris isn't willing to go in and change his world because he thinks everything's perfect as it is. He doesn't want anything to change, and it's just that'll never not get me, because it's just like, dude, it's like, how do you not, even if, just say, no, I'm gonna keep him like that. How do you not have an answer for that? I know he doesn't know how it makes him sound, but it's like, there's literally no easier question than that one right there.
Chris, I suggest that you, instead of going through the rest of issue 10 and 11, I suggest that you stop it all right now and come up with a completely different comic, because that's the only way you're going to get away from lawsuits. You got to answer this problem, because Nintendo and Sega and Hasbro and Family Guy, they're not going to wait. They're not, and you know that when I say that you need to do a reboot, I mean that all of the Sonichu comics that currently exist, you can never attempt to get published. I mean.
Yeah, everything you have said has been taken to heart.
I kind of get that. You've got this kind of lackadaisical tone you're taking with me right now. Chris, do you believe I'm trying to help you?
Fairly much so.
Do you care that I'm trying to help you?
Yes, I care.
Okay. Do you feel bad that you've treated me like shit, even though I've tried to help you countless times? You sound like a small child trying to get out of being lectured. That's why I keep asking this. Chris, I'd like you to make me... I'd like you to make me believe that you actually are listening and believe to everything I say. And when I say listen, I don't mean, you wrote down the list I asked you to and can repeat my words back to me. That's not what listening means. Listen means you are actually considering what I say.
I am actually considering what you are saying.
Prove it to me, Chris.
Okay, how do I prove it to you?
Yeah, Chris is, like I said, everything he says in this phone call, almost every word that comes out of his mouth is a blatant lie. He says he's listening to Alec, and it's clear with every apology video he makes, and with every action Chris takes, that he does not understand a word this guy's saying. And if he does understand it, he's just throwing it under the rug because he does not want to deal with it. And Alec brings up that it's like lecturing a small child. He just wants to get out of it. He's just shifting in his seat, ready to run away. And Chris just continues to prove that that's the case. Not once has he proved that he's serious about this. Not once has he done anything about these things Alec's bringing up to him. And it's clear that he really doesn't care about a word this guy says. Now, at the end of the day, I think Chris assumes that Alec is a troll, and he's just trying to get out of this without having to give up anything that he wants to do. But it's just come on, you care about these ads so much, you care about all these things this guy's talking about so much. If you genuinely want it, just lie to him or something. Now, that's all I keep bringing up. How hard would it have been for you, Chris, just to apologize for these things very timidly, like he tried to do on the apology videos, but just say that you're sorry and then just move on. This guy would have been out of your hair, but no, he's just gotta continue to beat around the bush and try to find ways to get out of this stuff that didn't even really matter in the first place. He could have just apologized and not even meant it, but no, Chris just has to he has to make the wrong decision each fucking time.
Show some concern. I mean, you say something other than "I will take it into consideration." That's the same thing you say to your fans every time they suggest ideas to you in the mailbag. I don't think you do take anything I say into consideration. You know what? my first few calls with you, I was nice like this, and you were insulting to me. And then, the next few times I tried to call you, I got mean and loud and yelled a lot, and then it seemed like you actually listened. And now I'm trying to be nice again because I don't like being mean to people, and now it seems like you stopped listening again. I think, I was hoping for the best, but I think I may have been right. I may have hit the nail on the head when I said that you seem to only listen to, to yelling and insults.
Well, that is not true.
I gotta say, it really does seem like that is true, because remember, the reason we're here to begin with is because of those ads that Chris took as an attack, his words, not mine, and it's all that Chris cares about, it's all that Chris wants to figure out here. So an attack on him, someone being negative towards him, someone being derogatory towards him, in his own eyes, is the only thing that gets him to get out of his chair and actually try to make an effort to change things to get rid of it. Other than that, he just don't give a shit about anything. So I think Alex hit the nail right on the head with that one.
I do not listen to only yelling and insults.
I think you do, because, people, I think a big problem a lot of people have is that they believe the way they behave is the way that everybody behaves, and the rules that they follow is the way everybody follows. And I think that because you rely on bullying and trolling and insulting and trying to make other people feel bad just to make yourself feel good, because you practice all of those, I think you believe that that's the only set of rules that applies in the world.
Well, that is not the case.
You sound so convincing there. You really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, the way Chris responds, the way he says yeah at the very end there, just shows that he doesn't understand sarcasm at all. But he actually probably thinks that Alec was saying, like, wow, Chris, you sound so convincing, man, you're so right. And Chris is just like, yeah, that's true, I do sound right, But I have to give it to Alec once again, nail on the head, with saying that Chris really only looks at the world from the way he looks at it, and anybody else's outlook doesn't matter to him. And I think that has to be something to do with Chris's, just the way he thinks in general. All he's ever known is inside of his house. He's been to high school, he's been to school all his life, but the only thing he seems to remember about his high school days and all that is his gal pals and all that, which, the one thing Chris, especially around this time, all he talked about was sex and how he was on his love quest and women. So that's the only thing that was going to sink in for him. When it comes to the real world, he's never really known anything outside of his real house and his parents and all the stuff going on and the Sonichus and all that. So if it's not aligning with Chris's beliefs and what Chris wants to do, he doesn't understand the world, and that's very clear to see in any conversation he has. And Alec bringing it up here, I think, is a really good point, because it's true, it's really true, but Chris isn't going to be able to comprehend that.
You seem to really care about what Mao says, and all Mao does is insult you. Did I tell you that to get rid of Simona? I don't remember if I brought this up, but
yes, you did.
Evan wants you to violently kill her in the comic, and display it. Don't show it off screen or off panel, but you have to show it in the comic, like show her head getting chopped off or show her getting shot full of bullets, something like that.
I will not kill her, but she will leave Quickville peacefully.
You have to kill her. You have to kill her violently.
I am not going to kill her.
Chris,
I will let her leave.
No, that's one of my turns. It's not like Poochie from The Simpsons where you can just, take his frame out.
And you see, this is what I talk about when I say that Chris sees his comic book characters as real people, how he genuinely thinks they have thoughts and feelings and all that. He wants these ads gone so bad, and all he has to do is these little things like, oh, this one specific character in your comic that's like a real background character you don't use too much, yeah, just draw them getting killed in a crazy way. And Chris is he's adamant, no, I won't do that, she can leave peacefully. Come on, what normal person, like, who talks like this? Like, why is this a big deal to him? But it is. It's a huge deal to Chris, and like he will fight tooth and nail for this one. You know, he is. If you know what happens here, he does eventually draw this violent event, but he also draws many more violent events after this, showing that, you know, he's down with the violence if it suits him. But it's just one of those things where, you know, it's so easy to do this to get what you want, Chris. If you want this guy to stop bugging you, just do this and get him out of your hair. But no, he just can't. He can't bring himself to do it. It's just too much for him.
Chris, you violently kill her, or Evan might come down on you and the Wikipedia. And I know you already got the Wikipedia shut down once when you tried to manipulate the ads. If you don't respect this now, it's going to get shut down again, because Evan is going to come down on you. And he would have come down on you a long time ago, except I was trying to be the voice of peace and was holding his anger in check. And I'm not going to do that now. Now I've learned my lesson. Now I'm just telling you these are the terms. You either follow them or you face Evan's anger.
All right.
So you're going to violently kill Simona, right? And show it.
Will happen, yes.
Okay. I suggest fire. I think that's always a good way to go to, you know, deal with characters that you want to get rid of. It's very visually, you know, draws people in. Everybody loves fire.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I light people on fire in my comic, and every time I do, I get all this fan mail, you know, just praising that one panel or that one page.
Yeah. Well, I will think of something.
I always get a kick out of how Alex says, you know, every time I draw someone getting caught on fire in my comic, I get so much fan mail of people just praising me, telling me how visually amazing it was and all this stuff. It's the subtle things that make this call so fucking funny to me. But, you know, if you're wondering how because Chris says he'll think of something at the end there, I think we're going to spoil it a little bit, but if you're wondering how Chris eventually did get rid of Simona, he drew her going to the bathroom, and there was a Voltorb, the Pokemon Voltorb, in the bathroom, who then used Explosion, or is it Self-Destruct, that annoying move that they use, a Voltorb or an Electrode will use in Pokemon. I think it was Self-Destruct, and that's how Simona got taken out, you know, that fucking Voltorb, if it just wasn't there.
I will think about it. All right.
Can I have you one more time read off your list to me?
Okay. Admit Alec has sizable fan base.
Let's actually change that to admit Alec has a greater fan base than you. Let's just, because we should be specific.
Greater fan base.
Yep, bigger fan base.
Yeah, see, at the beginning, Alec was trying to be kind of subtle with the things he wanted Chris to apologize for, just trying to get Chris to say things he knew Chris wouldn't want to say. But at this point, he's just like, he's not even beating around the bush no more. Says, yeah, you know, just apologize and say that I have a bigger fan base, a greater fan base than you. And I think when Chris does eventually apologize for this in the apology video, he says, like, Alec has a greater fan base than mine. Right now, but not as of like all time, I think Chris has the bigger one. It's just something like that, something where he just constantly throws caveats in. It's stuff that he won't dare say here in front of Alec because he knows he'll get pressed on it, but it's things that he'll say in videos where he knows if people comment things like that and just call him out on it, he can just ignore those things because it's not right there in front of him. And that's one thing that Chris is one of those more pathetic moves from Chris. You know, he does it in every type of social situation he's in, where if a person's asking him something, you know, can you do this for me on a video because you wronged me or all that, he won't ever call this person out. He'll just say, yep, sure, we'll do that. And then the second he gets behind his camera and he feels like he has a little bit of power and he doesn't have to answer this person, then he starts getting all cocky and saying these things that, you know, he's been thinking of in his mind this whole time, so he does have the mind to answer these questions, but he won't bring it up in front of these people because he knows they'll call him out on it, and then he won't actually have an answer. And when I say he won't have an answer, you know what I mean. He has the answer, he's just afraid to say it because he knows it sounds fucking ridiculous. Because even to Chris, I feel like a lot of the things he says, even in his own mind, are wrong, but he's just saying it to get out of saying the truth. That's just as a personal thing to me. But then again, it is Chris. He probably does believe this shit, so who knows?
Address, yeah, greater. I said that. All right. Anyway, that. And the address permission of sign which you used, but then it was withdrawn. And admit Simona was not mine. Admit adding Simona article. Remove Simona by death. Apologize to you for calling you naive. Apologize to Mal with the forgiveness blessing to undo the curse. Apologize for stealing Asperger and parodic characters. Make a comment page explaining all that. I just apologize to you for pretending to be my mother to get out of the last phone call. Apologize for insinuating female imprisonment and rape on you. Admit to having no excuse for not updating on as often as I should. And apologize to my fans for disrespecting them in mailbags and delayed updates.
I don't know. It's always so funny to me hearing him read that list back because it's all over the place. It's just such a wacky list of things to apologize for, you know. Apologize to my fans. Apologize for calling you naive. Apologize for insinuating that you have female prisoners in your basement. Like, it's just so... It just goes from one extreme to, like, a really simple thing to a crazier extreme. This is why I'm covering this, because it's just one of the funniest events that Chris was ever a part of. And he reads this letter off, and like you can hear in the tone of his voice, he's half these things he doesn't even, he's not even going to mention in the next apology video. All of these things he feels like he's probably in the right about. He doesn't have to do any of this, and it's just in classic Chris fashion. Alec already brought it up. He didn't listen to a single thing in this call. All he did was he listened in the sense that he listened and wrote these things down, but he didn't actually take any of it into consideration. He didn't actually let it sink in, He just heard it, wrote it down, completely forgot about it, and the second he hangs up this call, it's going to be forgotten about until he picks up this piece of paper again, says that he's sorry about it, and puts it back down. And as I've been saying, if he just did it right and was like, oh, Alec, I'm so sorry for this, I'll never do it again, yada, 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 didn't just be like to never pick up this dude's calls again. But no, he does it half-assedly and then keeps picking up this guy's calls and having to make more and more of these apology videos. So he's just bringing this on himself.
And when you make this video, make sure that you are wearing your Sonichu medallion and your high school ring so everyone knows it's true. And I don't want to see any of that Groucho Marx glasses bullshit, because you've done that before. This video, I don't want any way for you to weasel out of this video.
Okay.
This video will stand for all the time.
Yeah.
And one last thing, I'd like you to admit that Sonichu is a doomed franchise, and you have no way of actually profiting from it or publishing it without getting, sued 6 ways from Sunday by the real owners of the products you use.
Yeah.
That's the final thing to the list.
Yeah.
See, and this time, you can tell he didn't write that one down. You can tell that one's just like oh no, he ain't even touching that one, because he knows already. He's not going to say it. And even if he did say it in the apology video, I don't recall if he did or not. It was in the most half-ass attempted way that he could possibly say it, because Chris truly believes that, everything this guy's saying is just a troll. He doesn't want to admit to any of this stuff, but that one in particular, that admitting that Sonichu is a doomed franchise, even though Alec has brought up already that you need to reboot this, you got to get yourself out of it, you can tell that every time it gets brought up, this is just one thing that Chris is not willing to budge on more than anything. That's why in some other things, he'll be like, all right, wrote it down, next thing. In this one, he's just like, yeah, I got you. Like, the amount of times Chris has said, like, it's amazing that's how we're kind of deciding how Chris is communicating here, just off the different tones of the yes that he throws out. Because you can tell when he's angry, when he's agreeing, when he's trying to just push something off. Each time, it's extremely obvious because he's done it so many times over the course of this call.
Okay. So it sounds like you've got the list comprehensive, which is good. I'm glad you've got that written down. And I just want to emphasize again that you will do all of those items both in a video and in your comic. And if you do it all perfectly, exactly the way I've laid out for you, and if I don't sense that you're trying to weasel out of anything or trying to pull a fast one on me, then I will remove all my ads. I will, I'll release my contract with Jack. But if you do try to pull anything, then the ads are going to get worse. Because despite the fact I'm trying to be calm with you, I am still very angry with you. And if you try to pull anything on me, then I'm going to punish you for it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, well, I will do all that, and I will talk to you later.
All right. I'll look forward to seeing the ad and the comic.
Okay.
All right. You have a good night, Chris.
You too.
The way Alec at the end there says, oh, you have to do all these or else I'm going to punish you, Chris, I know it's a troll, but it's like, shut up. You sound so, it's cringe as shit. I don't know. It's the way he says that makes me just go, no, now I'm on Chris's side, you friggin' loser. Like, I don't know. I just don't like the way he says that. I think he's too serious now. But, at the end of the day, it's a troll. He's just messing with Chris. There's no reason to think of it that seriously. It's just I hear it for a second, I'm like, what, dude? What are you, like, what? Shut up. But that's the thing you gotta remember with this whole call. It's the same thing as the father call, and it's something that I said at the beginning of every one of those videos, that this is like real to Chris, but it's not real to Alec, it's not real to anyone else, but to Chris, this is serious business, and he's not taking it serious, but in his mind, he genuinely believes that this is like a guy who's actually going after him, he feels that he really has to do this for his future and all that, but he doesn't care enough to do it. And this is just going to keep going on for the next 3 calls, because we've now done 6 of the 9 calls. We're about 2.5 hours into this 4+ hour like whole situation here, and it's just going to get crazier and crazier from here, because Alec just brought up that he's very angry with Chris, and he's just going to get angrier, and then Chris is going to do something very soon that, if you don't know what he does, it's going to be the climax to all this fighting going on between him and Alec and all these disagreements, and it's going to make the Voltor the Voltor murder look like I don't know, just look like a candy shop in comparison to what's about to happen next. So I hope you guys stay tuned for that when it happens. But we're gonna get out of here on this one. It's already a long video, and I thank you guys for sticking here and watching this whole thing. And like at the end of every video, we got to give our shouts out, and we start with Vanessa, Sky, Krabby, your mom, Liz Vendor, Cody Hale, the Ghostbusters fan, Club Doom, Scaly Schisms, Echo Spectre, Mick Surly, Pythea, Churlish, Isaiah, Music Biz Marty's Bong, Akiba's Beat Fan, The Night Owl, Kaitan, Fiendland's Party Place, Moochie, Chris Chan's Fanta Bottle, Grant M, Alright Stingy, Sky Fitzpatrick, and good old Adrian Lara. You guys are all goats, and as I already brought up, everyone who made it to the end of the video, you guys are goats as well. Thank you guys for always supporting this and watching it. I'm probably going to be premiering this live, so everyone in the chat, thank you guys for always showing up here, having a good time. It always makes me happy to see you guys all communicating and chilling down here. I fucking love the community we've built so far. I love having all you guys here. Now, I'm really dead ass when I say that. It's always like having like 400, 500 friends right here, and it's such a cool thing to be able to say, that we got a group here of friends this massive, and it's awesome, because I love seeing y'all communicate with each other. I love knowing that these wacky bullshit videos just make y'all smile, and that's all that, like I said, at the end of the day, that's all that matters, guys. So thank you for always stopping by and having a good time, and I hope you guys continue to stop by and have a good time, because like I said, it's all that matters at the end of the day. If you want to keep doing this, even when I'm not on here making these videos, like I said, the Discord's down below. We got over 500 cool ass people in there, and go in, make some friends, and that's that. That's that. as I do at the end of every these videos, I always try to tell y'all have a great rest of your week and all that. You know, we're at the weekend now. It's Sunday. There's a lot of good football on today. Sadly, I'm not going to get to go out to the bar and enjoy it like I want to, but you know, that's what happens when the virus hits. Like I said, it's brutal. It's brutal. I feel pretty lousy. Obviously, it comes with the territory we're having this, but hey, we're gonna get better at this, and things are going to change soon. You know, everything's going to be good for me, everything's going to be good for you, and that's that. Sadly, though, you know, if the videos do slow up and I maybe don't get them out every single day, you know, I'm terrible at my video schedule anyway. Sometimes I upload every day, all week. Sometimes I forget for a week. It's just, you know, these things happen. But with this going on, I'm not gonna guarantee anything this week because I just got to see how I'm feeling. But most likely, you know, if I'm able to do a video like this, it's almost pushing an hour and I'm talking constantly. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get more videos out this week. So I'm gonna just operate off that mindset because I got a lot of time sitting here. I'm not gonna be able to leave my room anyways. So we're gonna have, I guess, some time. So we'll see what we can get out. Other than that, though, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna rest, get some sleep, and I hope all you guys have a great rest of your day. So I'm gonna get out of here. Take care and be safe, my friends.